YouTube, in this video, I'm going to be yapping about 10 things that could determine / define this 2025 NBA season. You know, there are a lot of question marks going into this year with some of the more prominent teams in the NBA, and the way those questions are answered or not answered, in my opinion, will have a defining effect on the NBA season, including the playoffs. And hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Make sure you guys subscribe if you want to see more content like this every single day on this channel. And I have to give you guys some extra content in this video. It's not just going to be 10 things. We're going to do some honorable mentions at the end of the video, because in all reality, 10's a good number, but there's just way more things that could happen that could define the season, and I wrote a bunch of them down. Let's get into the video, folks. The first thing about the NBA season that will be extremely interesting to see will be Victor Wembanyama in year 2. How great is this leap that he's going to take this season in year 2, with the Spurs adding veteran pieces like Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes to kind of help him through this development here. Obviously, we all know Wemby has the potential to be one of the greatest players of all time, and we saw one of the greatest rookie seasons from anybody ever in NBA history last year. And a lot of people are speculating, including myself, that, you know, he will have a massive leap in year 2. He will break out to superstardom, and he will start to work his way towards these, you know, top players in the league discussions, right? This could have a drastic effect on the Western Conference. I mean, if he really truly breaks out into the player that we know he can be this season in particular, the Spurs could be very difficult to predict in the Western Conference, because as it is right now, I would expect the Spurs to be somewhere around the back end of the Western Conference, right? Like, maybe you could say they'll challenge for a play-in spot. I'm not so sure about that, but if Victor truly takes that leap, we could see them in the play-in tournament, and that obviously will have a drastic impact on a lot of Western Conference teams. If they make it, someone else has to miss it, right? So that is something to note for this season. I think we'll see that very early on in the season. We'll be able to tell pretty quickly what kind of year 2 Wemby we're going to see this season. And at number 2, this is something that I think is maybe the most important thing, is can the Celtics maintain the dominance that they've displayed throughout the entire regular season last year, throughout the entire playoffs last year, and at the time you're recording this video, in game 1 against one of the Eastern Conference powerhouses in the Knicks this season. They came out and just made a statement game, and it just absolutely dominated the New York Knicks. Can they maintain this level of play throughout the entire season? They already did it last season, and they did it in game 1 without one of their best players, Kristaps Porzingis. He's going to be out for a little while. If the Celtics continue to play the way they have been, including in game 1 of the regular season, I just don't see how anyone beats them. Eastern Conference, Western Conference, this is the best team in the entire world, and I think you saw that on opening night. The question is, can they maintain it for an entire season? You know, this team has a lot of chemistry. They've, you know, played together a lot. They're core, right? And so when KP comes back, it's even going to be better. This will define the NBA season. What kind of Celtics we see around postseason time, that is the season definer right there for all teams in the league. I don't see how anyone takes this team down as they're playing right now. And so that has to be one of the bigger things we talk about here for, you know, season determining question marks. You know, the third thing I'm going to have is Julius Randle and his fit with the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's been a lot of question marks about, you know, the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. Does it make the Timberwolves better? Some people think it does. Some people think it doesn't. I'm personally on the side of it makes them better. The Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. You know, there's no question about it. They are in the top 4 of that elite bracket of teams like OKC, Dallas, and Denver. But if Julius Randle and the fit there doesn't work out necessarily, and he can't provide the level of number 2 option play that Karl-Anthony Towns did for Minnesota, this could have a drastic, you know, season defining impact on the Western Conference in general. Okay. And so while I think it's not as simple as, you know, the fit works out or it doesn't, there's a lot of things that go into it. This is a big question mark going into the Western Conference. If you're a fan of a Western Conference team, this is something to keep your eyes on. The fourth thing I want to mention is the JJ Redick Lakers impact, right? And, you know, we talked about opening night. It's only one game. Obviously, you know, we can make a big deal out of it for every team involved, but at the end of the day, it's just game 1. It's you know, there's 81 more, and there's playoffs to talk about in the Western Conference. You know, the playoffs are going to be extremely difficult to get into, even for the Lakers, who have 2 of the league's top players in the world. But one of the things I think nobody has really mentioned as far as the Lakers that I've been talking about for months on this channel is the elevated ceiling that the Lakers could have with proper coaching, and I think you're going to see that from JJ Redick. I'm a big believer in his, you know, first-year coaching ability. Maybe I'm higher on him than a lot of other people are, but he's talked a lot about using Anthony Davis as a hub of the offense. The offense is going to go through him, particularly in the half-court set, and that is a big time difference in their play last season to this season. That will drastically change results one way or another. I think we saw on opening night how Anthony Davis looked like, an MVP candidate, right? If he can play like that all season, he's an MVP candidate, right? And the Lakers do have good role players. I mean, not only do they have LeBron James, but if guys like D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, if, Jared Vanderbilt can get healthy, if Gabe Vincent can play like he did in Miami, these are a lot of question marks here, right? But if even just a couple of those things happen and Anthony Davis, continues to play like he did in opening night and Coach Redick really utilizes him the way he's said he's going to, I don't know how this isn't a way different result that we're going to see from the Lakers. People say, oh, it's the same team. They didn't make any big moves. That's true, but the system is totally different. And so we're going to see different results either way. And I think it's going to be extremely positive. But another thing that could end up defining certain placements in the playoff seeding come April for this historically great Western Conference. And so something to keep your eye on for sure is the impact, whether it's bad, good, or the same, that JJ Redick is going to have on the Lakers. Another thing that I think is just super important to wonder about is the Milwaukee Bucks chemistry, right? Can Dame and Giannis in year 2 take that step, truly being what we thought they were going to be, heading into year 1, right? We saw Dame take a little bit of a dip in production. He's talked about how he's in the best shape he's ever been in. He's really worked on his body this offseason. We now have a lot more time under their belts, Dame and Giannis and, some of these other guys, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, who's going to be fighting back from injuries here pretty soon. I think just having a coach that isn't going to be replaced mid-season, if you're a Bucks fan, knock on wood, it's just going to by default make this team play a lot more cohesively. They won their first game against my Sixers pretty handedly. They shot the ball extremely well, albeit without PG and Embiid, but they looked really good offensively. And so I think Dame and Giannis in year 2, is this fit truly going to be, as special as we think it can be? That is something that has to be answered this season. If it doesn't, I think you see this tandem broken up by the time 2026 rolls around, but that's just my opinion. This is one of the more important things for the Eastern Conference. We just didn't see them gel as much as we would like last season if we're a Bucks fan. If the Bucks get everything together by playoff time and they're all healthy and they're all playing it together more than last season, this is one of the top Boston Celtics challengers if we're paying attention to the Eastern Conference here. And so they have as good of a chance as anyone if all those things happen. We just have to see whether or not it will. Piece of news that just broke is that Dejounte Murray, newly acquired New Orleans Pelican, has broken his hand. He's fractured his hand and he will miss, quote, extensive time here. Could be a few months, right? And so that's a big loss for the Pelicans, who were looking to get Dejounte Murray, leading this offense as a true point guard. And so now you're kind of in a situation where you lost your center in Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe that wasn't that big of a deal when you had everybody healthy, but now all of a sudden the star caliber player that you brought in the offseason is going to be injured for a few months. And so we're going to have to kind of scramble around here for the Pelicans and again compete in this historically great Western Conference without one of your best players. And so this is something to note, whether or not the Pelicans can survive the chaos and absolute barrage of Western Conference teams while Murray is down, right? And so not only do you have him down, when he comes back, he still hasn't played a lot of games with a lot of these guys, really any. And so you have to work him back in. You have to get the roles defined before playoff time. But can you survive with a winning record in Murray's absence? That is certainly going to determine at least the seeding for the New Orleans Pelicans come playoff time. I had them as a playoff team going into the season. Now I'm not so sure. They'll have to just weather the storm with Murray out. It's going to be tough to do in this West, as I said, but keep an eye on the Pelicans record throughout the time Murray's out. If they can stay around 500 in his absence and maybe even a little bit better, which I do think they can. I mean, you have CJ McCollum, you have Jordan Hawkins, who's looking to take a leap this season. I think he will. You have guys to fill the role, but it's obviously, a big loss losing one of your best players. And so tough break for Pelicans fans, tough break for the Pelicans organization. Have to see if they can weather this storm in this Western Conference with Murray out. Another thing to note, is just going to be the Knicks in general, right? What do they look like with all these new faces, right? We've seen all the, stuff on Twitter about Mikal Bridges and his jump shot and it's broken and all this stuff. Early in the season opener and the preseason, he looked to be struggling with that new jump shooting form. Towards the end of that game against the Celtics, he started to hit some shots. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think that's going to be that much of an issue as people are making it out to be. He's a really good player. He's a great shooter and he'll figure it out. Not so worried about that. But with Cat and Mikal Bridges in the lineup, what does this defense look like? What does this offensive attack look like? Are you going to be relying on Jalen Brunson to set up 70% of this offense, right? We have to see what this group looks like on the floor together. Obviously, it is a great lineup on paper. You played the Celtics in game 1, who tied the record for most made threes. No one in the NBA would have won that game against the Celtics playing like that. Let me tell you, Knicks fans, that is a total outlier of a game. You can't really take much from that. And so we'll have to see within the next couple weeks here, what does this Knicks group look like? Are they truly going to be the biggest Boston Celtics challenger in the Eastern Conference? We'll have to see over the next couple weeks what this new look Knicks squad can really do within a good sample size here, maybe 10 or so games. Mitchell Robinson's going to be down for a little while. That's going to obviously be a big loss. this. And so just pay attention to the Knicks. That's all I'm saying. One of the bigger pieces of news over the last few days, if you're an NBA fan, is the 76ers news. Paul George, newly acquired 76er. He hyperextended his knee in a preseason game because of course he did. And so he's going to be out for at least the first week of the season. I believe he'll be reevaluated Sunday. Joel Embiid, who by all metrics that we can see, doesn't have a knee injury anymore because he played in the Olympics and appeared to have no restrictions and be moving around just fine for him. And so the news is that the Sixers are going to be ramping him up and keeping him out of at least the first 3 games and potentially much longer of the regular season. And so is he even injured? We just kind of really don't know that at this point. Sixers are being investigated by the NBA for Joel Embiid's availability over the first week of the season. The language from the Sixers team has been very vague, and so we just kind of don't know what's going on there. In the meantime, we're going to have Maxey step up and take this top option responsibility. My question is, for this regular season, as a Sixers fan, but honestly just as an NBA fan in general, objectively, we already know Joel Embiid's not going to play back-to-back, so that's like 15 games you could check off the board. He's already going to miss the first week or so, and they're probably going to rest him a lot more than that. And so Paul George is going to rest on back-to-backs. How many games can this Sixers team win in this much improved Eastern Conference this season without their 2 best players in the majority of the games? I'm all on board of doing whatever it takes to keep Embiid healthy by the time the playoffs roll around. The question is, can you even get into the playoffs without having your best player on the floor, develop chemistry with new pieces that you added? This is a very new team with a lot of new faces. And can we expect Tyrese Maxey to carry this team into a playoff spot in this, again, very much improved Eastern Conference? I don't know that this team, with just Maxey and PG leading the show, and arguably PG a lot of times, because it looks like he's going to be load managed as well. Can this team even finish in the top 6? I just don't think so, throughout the regular season. And so you're giving away home court in the playoffs without playing these guys, as a not making the top 4 seeds. And now you're going to say, oh, well, they have to fight their way out of a play-in tournament to even get to the playoffs, and they're going to have to face one of the top teams in the league in the first round. This does not look like a recipe for success to me. Again, I'm all for having all 3 of these guys healthy, no matter what it takes to get to the playoffs. But if you can't even get to the playoffs by winning enough games in the regular season, I don't know what good this does for anybody involved in the situation. And so keep an eye on Joel Embiid and his status and the NBA investigation and how many games he's going to play by the time All-Star break rolls around. How big of a threat is the Memphis Grizzlies, right? If this team is going through a transition year last year, a lot of injuries, Ja Morant out for almost the entire season, unfortunately. They look to have all their guys back pretty much, right? This is a really, really good and deep team in the Western Conference that has a lot of top-end talent. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Triple J, newly acquired center Zach Edey. Let's see what kind of an impact he makes as the starting 5 for this Memphis Grizzlies squad. Is this team the team that they were, a few years ago? You have Marcus Smart now, you added some pieces here. I think they have everything they need, right? But again, it's just hard to predict because we haven't seen all these guys play together in over a year or two, and the West has gotten so much better since then. Is this Memphis team the same one that's going to be challenging for a top-end playoff seed, right, in this Western Conference? Or will they be somewhere in the middle? We just have to see how big of a threat the Memphis Grizzlies will be with this returning, squad of great players who've had great success in the past. But again, every other team, it feels like, in the West has just gotten so much better. And so we'll have to see what, kind of Memphis Grizzlies team we're looking at here in this season. That's up for debate. And so that is something to definitely keep an eye on. There's so much going on in the Western Conference. Most of this stuff is Western Conference related because it's just a free-for-all, man. There's just so many great teams. And so we have to see if the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be one of them by the time April rolls around. And last but not least, for the formal 10 things, right, we're going to have Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner's improvement in this season. We talk about a lot of these Eastern Conference teams, the Celtics, the Sixers, the Bucks, the Knicks, right? These are the teams everybody expects to be at the top. Nobody really gives a lot of thought to the Orlando Magic, even though they got so much better in the offseason adding KCP. They drafted a nice wing shooter in Tristan da Silva. They have a ton of young talent that could easily take a big leap this season and potentially be much better, right? And that starts with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. If these guys take a step up, Paulo, as far as all-star caliber player to superstar caliber player, I don't know how the Magic aren't going to be a top seed in the East with, a big time advantage over some of these other teams we're talking about here. This is going to be one of the best defenses in the NBA. Their perimeter defense is absolutely locked down. Jalen Suggs, KCP on the perimeter. On the interior, you have so much size, it's not even funny. This is the deepest team in the Eastern Conference as well. They have everybody at every position that they need. They have legitimately 10 rotation players, and a bunch of those guys could be taking leaps, as I mentioned. I would not be shocked if this team finished in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference, playoff seeding this season and look to be a real legit contender. But in my opinion, that is going to be up to Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. If those guys, even one of them, takes a big leap from, star caliber to superstar caliber, this team could be as good as anybody challenging the Celtics in the East. I'm not even exaggerating. That's how good they could be if one of those guys takes that leap. And I do think they're going to have maybe the best defense in the NBA this season, and they have much improved offense. Watch out for the Magic, man. They are not to be taken lightly, and they're not just like the new team on the block, right? Like, they are for real. Pay attention to this team. Pay attention to those two guys. They will only go as far as those two guys take them. That's going to be the key to this season that could define the Eastern Conference for the Orlando Magic. Now, those are the 10 things that were the big things for me, but there are a lot of other things that I want to mention. Honorable mentions, right? The Dallas Mavericks fit with Klay Thompson. Is it going to be as spectacular as we think it is? I would probably say so. These are really smart players that have played a lot of great basketball. Luka, Kyrie, and Klay. The fit will be pretty much seamless as far as I'm concerned. I just wrote it down as something to note. Another fit situation is going to be DeMar DeRozan. Is he going to be a seamless fit with the Kings? Some people think so, some people don't, right? For one, he just can't make the team worse. That's for sure. I mean, this guy is a absolute bucket, walking 20 points, king in the mid-range. He's going to make this team better. Just how much better? And how well will he fit with guys like Sabonis and Fox? That's something to note for this video as well. Either way, could have a big impact on the Western Conference. Talked about JJ Redick earlier. How about Kenny Atkinson with the Cleveland Cavaliers? What is his system going to look like in Cleveland? How is it going to be different from Coach Bickerstaff a season ago and in seasons past? Is this going to be a new look Cavs offense? Is this going to be a different play style? This is another team that's looking to knock on the door at Boston and say, hey, we're coming to get you. Can Kenny Atkinson raise this ceiling like I believe that Coach Redick with the Lakers will? Or will it be, more of the same? That is definitely something to keep your eye on as well. What the Cavs look like under Kenny Atkinson and how it's different from JB Bickerstaff could have an impact on the East. Now, Zach LaVine, right? Like, just not even the Bulls, Zach LaVine in general. Is he going to be traded by the deadline? Because this could end up determining a ton of different things for either conference, right? If we see Zach LaVine traded to a legit contender, for one, Zach LaVine's totally healthy now and he looks great as far as I can see so far. Two, he looks motivated. Obviously, he's on that terrible contract and a team will have to take that if they want to get him. But I honestly feel like I said, if he goes to a legit contender in either conference, this could massively shake up the order of things in either conference. And so if we see Zach LaVine traded to a team like the Warriors or the Lakers, or one of these teams that are looking for, a third option or a second option that can give you 25 a night on good efficiency, obviously Zach LaVine is one of the hotter guys on the market for that type of player. And so if one of those teams were to acquire Zach LaVine, you're telling me right now that wouldn't change that conference? Get out of here. That is definitely something we have to keep our eyes on here. A couple more things. Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga, will they take leaps for the Warriors this season? We just talked about how they kind of need a second option here to go alongside with Curry. And so, if those guys can truly be a legit second, third option type guys, Andrew Wiggins start playing like himself again, these things are undetermined. We have to see what that looks like. That could determine the Warriors season if no moves are made. But like, a lot of people are speculating on Kuminga and Podziemski as, guys that could be on breakout watch. And so we have to see that, what kind of impact it'll have on the Warriors. And for the last thing, I have the Charlotte Hornets and their health, right? If they can stay healthy for an entire season, this team has a very high upside to me in the Eastern Conference, at least at minimum to be a play-in team. If this team's healthy all season, we're talking about the health of guys like LaMelo Ball, Mark Williams, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller. If those guys can all stay healthy across the course of the season in the Eastern Conference, I think this team will go above 500 as far as wins and losses. And I think they make the play-in tournament. And so that's something to note for this video. If they can stay healthy, they are definitely a dangerous young team on the rise in that East. And so that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know down in the comment section if I missed anything. Like, what do you think are going to be the big defining factors for this season other than what I said? Is there anything I said that you disagree with, that you don't think is that big of a deal, or you disagree with the way I characterized it? Please let me know down in the comments. I'm always open to receiving criticism and feedback, whether it's positive or negative. It helps me as a creator. Just be respectful. Don't call people names. Don't be, childish, or you get treated like a child and you will be removed from the comment section. I don't want to have to do that to you guys, so be respectful. Leave a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this every single day on the channel throughout the entire NBA season. We're going to be uploading stuff just like this every day, all things NBA every day throughout the 2025 NBA season. I don't want you guys to miss it. We're trying to build something special here in this NBA community, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So please subscribe if you guys haven't already. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end of the video. Leave a like, it really helps out the video, helps new people find the video. Share it to as many people as you can if you did enjoy it, right? Follow my Twitter. Like I said, we're trying to get to 250 followers over there. I'm pretty active on Twitter. I love engaging with you guys on Twitter. So if you ever want to get in touch with me, ask me questions, or talk about NBA stuff, Twitter is the best place to do it. Just tweet at me or DM me. I'll probably follow you back and stuff like that. So if you guys want to engage with me in a different way, that's what you can do. Join the channel as a member. $5 a month, and you get custom emojis in the comment section. I will follow you on Twitter. I will reply to your comments first before everybody else, and I will shout you out at the end of every video, new and returning members. And so that's pretty much it. I will catch you guys in the next one. This has been 10 things plus honorable mentions that will determine / define the NBA season in 2025. Have a great rest of your day today, and hopefully your favorite team gets their question answered by the time the end of the season rolls around in a positive way. And I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.